Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. Talking with Liz and Tabitha is refreshing. They have such a happy dynamic between the two of them, and they have really been on a journey to creating their family. Liz carried a child, now Tabitha's getting ready to carry baby number 2, and we talk about all kinds of things, including the laws in the US. We talk about second parent adoption and all kinds of things. It's just truly a conversation you don't want to miss. Welcome, everyone. Today I am chatting with Liz and Tabitha, who are here to talk about their family creation story. And so I want to just say welcome to both of you. Please tell us who you are and about the members of your family.
Thank you so much. Liz, you want to start?
Sure. So I'm Liz. I am one of 2 mothers in this household. So this is my wife, Tabitha. I'll let her introduce herself at some point, maybe. We have a son together. His name is Leon. He's 2.5. And we are actively in the process for working on baby number 2. So yeah, small family, but growing quickly.
That's how it goes. We start with one, most of us.
If you're lucky.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So my name is Tabitha. I'm obviously Liz's wife, and I am currently in the process of trying to have baby number 2. She had Leon, and so I would carry baby number 2, and it has been a journey thus far, to say the least, for sure. We started our journey with IUI, and unfortunately, I was not able to get pregnant successfully using IUI. And so now we've kind of transitioned that journey literally within the last couple of weeks now to decide that I'm going to have to go through IVF in order to get pregnant. And so we're kind of down this new IVF path, and it's exciting and overwhelming and all of the emotions. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Fair. So Liz, you carried first for Leon. Was that just you flipped a coin, and how did you decide who was birthing first?
I'm 2 years older, so we were just like the older person loses. Yeah, so
The geriatric uterus, we
Oh,
had to figure
ouch.
out.
Oh, ouch.
yeah,
That's
burn.
that's what they told us when we went in there. They're like, "Oh, 32, it's your first one." Like, you're getting close.
So
It's like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess we'll
Well,
decide that."
there was a second reason for that as well. So besides the fact that I'm 2 years older and that just made sense, Tabitha has a lot of like medical factors that we knew that her pregnancy would be much more difficult than mine. So we just figured right off the bat, start with the older person who's going to be much easier. And we did, we're learning right now that we were totally correct in that.
Oh, yeah, we definitely made the right choice for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you started with IUI for you, Tabitha. Did you use IUI for you as well, Liz?
Yep.
And was it how many
One
tries?
time.
Oh, first try.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
pretty much walked in and blew
Yeah.
it at her.
Blew
and
baby
she was
dust on her and
pregnant,
she was
and
pregnant.
Yeah, the magic of
Yeah.
the magic of Liz. I don't know. She just got really lucky.
There you go. And it does happen, right? I mean, that's the thing. It does happen, as much as we often hear stories about it not happening easily. And clearly, Tabitha, for you, it hasn't been just the same kind of a journey. It does sometimes go that way. Before we delve into your experience so far, Tabitha, can we talk about donors and how did you use a known donor, an unknown donor, an open ID donor? How did you make that decision?
You want to start that, Tabs?
Yeah, that was for us. That was kind of an in-depth process. I'm Native American. Liz is very European. And, I mean, her DNA test is pretty much like 99% European. So when we were looking, the first thing that we cared about was we wanted to try and find somebody that was as genetically close to where our families came from as possible. And so we immediately started trying to find someone that was Native American and German, which is predominantly Liz's heritage. That was a lot harder than we thought it was going to be.
I was gonna say needle in a haystack.
Yeah, no kidding. No
Big
kidding.
time.
We actually found that there are not a lot of Native Americans that donate, and that makes sense. It's not a huge thing culturally for the Native American community. And so we learned very quickly that if that was going to be something we cared about, we were going to need to be okay with kind of narrowing down what our sperm donor options were going to be. And so once we kind of found a few people, literally a few people that fell within that specific range, if you will, then we kind of started talking about whether or not we wanted it to be somebody that was going to want to be involved in the child's life, going to want to get to know them when they're 18, or didn't want to get to know them at all. And I grew up in foster care, and so we kind of very much went back and forth on that. Because I felt very torn as a child who grew up in foster care and didn't know my father until after he passed away, that I didn't know if I wanted to necessarily have a child and do that exact same thing, right? Like I didn't know if I wanted to take that choice from him. And so as we kind of dove into all of that and explored all of that, what we decided on was we would choose somebody that was open to him reaching out when he's 18. So we're not necessarily comfortable being best friends, right? We don't want him to live next door and be a part of our, a part of our son's life every day. But I also didn't want him to not have the opportunity to explore that path if he wanted to. And so that was kind of the like journey we went through, trying to figure out who we even wanted to use as a donor, what was important to us, what wasn't important to us. And we narrowed down on this one donor. We got very, very lucky in the donor that we chose, because as we dug into him more, we actually found out that he had lots of positive pregnancies, which was great for us because obviously we knew down the road I was going to have some issues. And so knowing that he also had a lot of positive pregnancies just kind of made that final decision for us, that not only did he kind of have the ethnicity, the heritage things that we cared about, he was also open to meeting our son, which we cared about if our son wants that. And yeah, it just kind of made sense for us. Liz, did I miss something?
Genetic testing was the only other thing with that particular donor.
That's true.
Between the two of us, nothing,
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't really a carrier for anything, which made it very, very easy for us to be like, okay, well, there's not really a whole lot we have to worry about. As long as we're good, we should be good, right? So yeah, that's very true. Genetic testing was a big thing for us.
Yep. Yeah.
That makes sense. And so you've used an open ID donor, but someone that you don't know. And you answered my next question sort of when you were speaking to this. So you used one for Liz. Liz had that miracle baby, as we'll call him. And now are you still able to, he still has enough samples left that you were able to get some for IVF?
Yeah, so that's actually a complicated issue that we ran into as well with trying to get me pregnant. So when we first started trying to have our son, we had never done that before, right? Like it was our first time. We didn't know how many vials we should buy. We didn't know how long it was going to take. We had no idea. And of course, at this point, we had both just kind of finished school. We had just gotten married a couple years before that. We were starting our life as a family. We weren't yet quite established. And so we didn't want to buy, 5, 6, 7, 10 vials, drop all of that money, and then, lucky Liz only needed one of them.
Right.
So at the time, we decided to be kind of financially conservative, and we bought 2 vials of sperm. Well, after she got pregnant and we kind of started looking to take this journey with me, we found out he's not a donor anymore. So we had 1 vial of sperm, and that was it. And I mean, there is literally a forum online of women begging people to sell them this guy's sperm because he's the only donor that has ever been able to successfully get them pregnant. And so there's a lot of demand for this one particular donor, and there's just nothing else on the market anymore. So we went in for me to get pregnant with baby number 2, and it was essentially like, okay, we have 1 vial of sperm left. We know that I'm going to have issues getting pregnant. What's our plan here? How do we attack this? Because I don't want to have to go back to the drawing board and find a different donor. That just sounded so stressful and complicated and just a path we didn't want to walk down for sure. And so we kind of coordinated with our doctor when trying to get me pregnant for that specific reason. So when we did my IUI procedure, he decided, again, with kind of all of my medical history, that what he would do is use 3/4 of the vial we had left for IUI. And then if my IUI wasn't successful, we would still have that quarter vial to be able to do IVF with. And so that is literally where we're at right now. We did the 3/4 vial for my IUI procedure. Unfortunately, that was not successful. And so literally tomorrow we kind of start down the path of doing a retrieval and trigger shots and all of the things. So we don't have any more vials. It's all or nothing right now for us when it comes to this IVF process, and just hoping that it's successful. But yeah, there's nothing left on the market, and that's extremely stressful for us for sure. But it is what it is. We'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there if we have to. But yeah, there's nothing left.
So, and what will you do? Have you given some thought to what will you do if you need to do more than one retrieval or something?
We're hoping that we won't have to do more than one retrieval. We went in yesterday actually for like the pre-retrieval appointment. And in terms of follicles and stuff, she had more than 20. They just stopped counting. Yeah, they just gave up on counting at that point. So it sounds like we're going to get a really large amount, which of course not all of them are going to actually, but statistical odds and all that kind of say that we should be all right with not having to do another retrieval, and hopefully with the odds of IVF, and then of course like having multiple embryos frozen and stuff like that. If round 1 doesn't work, we should have enough opportunity, hopefully, to do at least a couple rounds, if that's the case. And honestly, at some point in her, like if it were to fail like once or twice, I truly believe, knowing her, that we're going to have a conversation at some point if it fails, that like for reciprocal IVF or something.
That was going to be my next question. If you feel as though it's not the path that's working best for you, will you make the decision to then be the reciprocal?
Yeah. I mean that's definitely, for me in particular, that's a hard conversation to have.
Sure.
Before Liz and I got married, I never wanted to have children, didn't think I wanted to have children. And then obviously, being with Liz completely changed my outlook on that. And then watching her get to carry our son and kind of what that journey was for her. Bless her heart, she was sick all 10 months, but she did it with grace. And, she was a champion throughout that pregnancy.
Listeners can't see, but Liz is shaking her head right now saying, I did not do that with grace, but okay.
I think we all have a different interpretation of grace, right? Like as her partner, watching her, vomit 40 times a day. And, to me, the fact that she wasn't like, I'm done with this, like we're not doing this anymore, this is over, I'm done. Like, to me, you handled that with grace. I'm sure on your end, as you were getting sick 40 times a day, you're like, this is not a cute look, this is not good. Like, but I mean, as your partner, genuinely, like, you handled that with grace, and it made me want to carry. I also didn't know for a while if I was going to be able to get pregnant because of all of my medical trauma. When I was 9, I got into a 4-wheeler accident and I cut my intestines in half. And
God.
Yeah, so I have a lot of internal trauma. I don't ovulate. And so they've kind of been having to force me to do all of those things. And so knowing all of that, I knew it was going to be a hard journey. I knew it was going to be a struggle, but I don't know if I'm ready to quite walk away from that. And
100%.
so, uh, sure, you know, if we get there, we'll have that conversation and it will be what it is. But I'm really hoping that that's not a conversation that we end up having to have. I think personally, I would just be devastated. You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
I know you
but it
would.
is what it is. You know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there if we have to.
And and while I can appreciate you saying it is what it is, let's be 100% honest and real and say it's not. It is what it
Yeah.
is. It's big. It's huge. And I guess to that end, um, you know, in Canada at least, and I have heard in some parts of the U.S., it's part of the whole journey for family creation when you do it as a queer couple and you are using the gametes from an unknown or outside of the dynamics of your relationship. So there will be a non-biologic component to things and everything else. We have to do what's called implications counseling. Is that a journey the two of you have been on? And have you been able to connect with somebody who is queer, who then may be able to speak to it from that perspective and help you process how you feel about all of it, starting the process and then going through it and finding a donor, but then also navigating how you are managing your own emotions and feelings if things don't unfold the way that you hope that they will. You expect that they will, truthfully.
Yeah. We have not done any sort of counseling or anything like that. But I will say we're very, very lucky. We have a core group of queer mom friends, if you will, that have all kind of gone through this journey. We've got one friend right now who actually just found out recently she's pregnant with her second successful IUI. And so she has a very similar story to Liz, where she got pregnant on the first go. It was good, no problems, no issues. And then we have another set of queer mom friends that kind of empathize with my journey, where they did 3 or 4 failed IUIs before they moved to IVF and then had a
Failed on
failed
both.
IVF. And,
Mhm.
you know, so I mean, when I say, you know, that these women have jumped through the rings, I mean, they've jumped through the rings. And so it's nice to have them, our kids go to the same school. And so we get to see them
Mhm.
regularly. And it's nice to be able to be like, oh my God, can we talk about how complicated it is to get all of these medicines ordered? Can we talk
Mhm.
about how annoying insurance is, or, you know, how many times I have to drive into this office every week? You know, it's like, it's nice to have that sounding board, but we definitely haven't looked for anything professional as far as support
Mhm.
in that area. But we've been very blessed with a core group of queer women friends that kind of
Mhm.
understand the journey.
Love that. And so it isn't implications counseling isn't something that your particular clinic or your state requires. Can I
No,
ask which state you're in?
We're in North Carolina.
I'm sorry, North Carolina?
Yes.
yeah,
No, no.
yeah.
I imagine the South, in general, probably, I don't know, we're loose anyway. So yeah, they don't require much, to be honest.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll see what happens after elections.
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, for listeners listening, we recorded this conversation before early November, although this episode won't drop until into November. So it's anyone's guess what the world is going to look like, you know, a
Yep.
few weeks from now.
Oh yeah.
And it's both terrifying and hopeful on both sides. Like
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it could
depending
go
on how you
really,
look at
really
it.
well or really, really bad. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
100%. And where you are isn't necessarily known for being a particularly blue state in general. Do you happen to be in a blue pocket? Because I understand there are blue pockets in oh no.
Oh, we're
We're as
in
far
like,
away from a blue pot. I mean, we're in the mountains on the side of the hill. You know, I mean,
oh yeah.
it's natural to walk outside and see, you know, Mark Robinson, Trump Vance. I mean, it's just everywhere.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
We
Really
very
conservative.
rarely see a Harris sign, which, you know, I've mentioned to Liz is scary for me having to go through IVF because that is one of the things kind of on the docket that may not exist in North Carolina in a couple of weeks. And we started my pregnancy journey back in July, you know, so I was hoping the IUI would have been successful in August, and it doesn't matter, you know, we've already got the baby, no problem. Like,
Mhm.
but now that I'm still in the middle of this treatment and it looks like, you know, maybe January or February before we're doing an actual transfer,
Mhm.
there's so much in the air that it's just so much more stressful, I feel like, than it has to be, you
Right.
know, on any normal given year. But it's definitely something in the back of in the back of our minds that we're concerned about. And I don't know that we've really come up with a good like plan B, you know,
Mhm.
like if
Mhm.
something happens, do we have to drive to another state? Like what happens when I come back to, you know, we
Right.
haven't even gone down that potential crazy path because we don't even want to entertain it unless it's a thing, but it is very much a thing and it's something that's kind of looming over us. So we'll see what happens.
What have you done the second parent adoption for your eldest?
That's a great question. No, we were going to wait intentionally to do them kind of together because, like,
It's expensive.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm getting very nervous about
Yeah,
that, as
I
I
know.
think actually that's a terrible idea now. Um, in
Yeah.
my opinion, I think we need to do it now, but unfortunately, it's probably one of those things where it's too late now anyway, because by the time they get all that done, it'll be after November
Yep, yep.
5th or whatever. So
Right.
yeah, at that point. And honestly, the process is so insulting. We've had a lot of friends go through it already that we're like, I'm not ready to do that quite yet for the
Yeah.
sake of like
You
nobody
know, I
needs to
mean,
see me that
we're talking
angry.
home visits where
I was
they're
gonna
coming
say,
out to make sure you're not, you
yeah.
know, beating your kid or not feeding
Yeah,
them. And it's like, we chose to have this baby. Like, this
right.
wasn't
Yeah.
a oopsie one night where it's like,
Right.
oops. You know, like, there's a lot of money invested in this. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of care.
Yeah.
And to think of someone, you know, calling my friends to judge my character and make sure that I'm fit to be a parent just kind of rubs me the wrong way, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was definitely something that we were like, let's just do this at one time when we have our second kid, so I don't have to get frustrated 2 times in a row, or, you know, we don't have to do this over and over.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a fair point. I think unfortunately at this point, maybe we've waited a little too long to do that. But again,
Yeah, we'll
I'm
find out.
hoping.
Yes. And that's all
I'm
we
hoping.
can do. That's all we
Yeah.
Yeah.
can do is hope, right? And I mean, and I had understood from guests I've spoken to before that North Carolina is one of the states where they do home visits for second parent adoptions, where there are other states where they mostly just say, you want to do second parent adoption? Okay, take it to the judge and it's signed off, and it's really, it is the formality that it shouldn't even need to be, but certainly it's more of just a formality than the vigors that they put you through in states like North Carolina, where they actually make you do home visits. And
The reason they do a home visit though is because they actually, North Carolina doesn't have second parent adoptions. They only have step parent adoptions. So
Mhm.
technically, we couldn't do a second parent. We would have to do a step parent adoption. So legally, she would be on the birth certificate from birth, but also the step parent. So that's why they do a home visit, because they assume like
You just like moved
you just
into this
you're
know that.
treating
home
it
and
like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When in reality, it's like that's not actually what's happening, but there's no category for that.
Mm, that I
So
did not realize.
that's why.
That's a whole other slap in the face. Let's just be
Totally,
honest.
totally. It's a slap in the face to anybody. I mean, that's
Yeah,
crazy. And honestly, it's even a slap in the face to step parents who, like, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. They could do it a lot
well,
better. But
my opinion on it, and this might be a controversial opinion, maybe you'll edit this out later.
No,
But
you're allowed to
um
have your opinion.
I'm on Leon is the name of our son. I'm on Leon's birth certificate as the father.
oh yeah.
If there was any other man in America that had a child and his name was on the birth certificate, whether he was in the child's life or not, he has full rights to that child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the father of Leon and I have no rights to him. If we go to another state that doesn't recognize our marriage or the fact that I haven't adopted him, and something happens medically, I'm not allowed to be there. I'm not
Mhm.
allowed to have an opinion, you know, and so it's like I I don't understand how you can put me as a father on the birth certificate but not give me the same rights.
Mhm.
You know, you still make me jump through all of these hoops to go see a lawyer and pay thousands and thousands of dollars and have my character questioned and my home visited and, you know, all of these resources or references called to make sure I'm a decent person, but you don't do that to any other fathers. You know,
Uh,
you name
yeah.
one single dad that's got a call after he had a baby to be like, all right, I've got this packet for you to fill out and I'll be at your house in a couple weeks. Make sure you're ready. That it just doesn't happen. And
No.
so it just grinds me to my core that it's like, I'm I'm literally on the birth certificate already as the father. Granted, I'd like to be the mother. That's a whole other argument,
Well, yes.
but
Yeah, we'll settle with the
I don't
father.
have those rights. You know, I don't have those rights of a father. I still have to jump through all of these hoops and it just like I said, it just kind of grinds my gears. So we've been
And it
pushing it
should.
off till the second one. And, you know, here
I'll
we
be
sit.
honest too, there's a part of me that is pushing it off because, and pardon my French, I just think it's bullshit.
It
So
is.
like, I don't feel like we should have to pay 4 grand and bring all these lawyers and people into our family when like you shouldn't have this messed up law to begin with.
Mhm.
So like there was a part of me that was kind of, and I mean, why did I think this? But hoping that they would get their
Just
life,
do away with it.
get it together and realize that that's
Mhm.
before I have to pay 4 grand to
Yeah.
validate how, I mean, she was there. Come on, man. Like she cut the cord.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, there's a lot of factors as to why I think it's necessary that we do it, unfortunately, at some point, but it is
Yeah.
also super stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Can you
And it
tell we're
is.
both a little salty?
No, but I mean, as a Canadian, whoever's on the birth certificate are the parents, whether it's parent one and parent two, whether it's both the moms, whether it's mom and dad, whoever is on the birth certificate are the parents,
Right.
full stop. And there isn't any other pieces that we need to throw into the mix. Now, goodness knows, who knows what's going to happen with Canadian politics, because we've got one that's not quite as offset as the one that's running in the US, but falls in good trails behind those same thought processes, which worries me, which is neither here nor there for this conversation. But
Yeah.
that's it. It should just be the
Okay.
birth. What is the birth certificate? Now, my other question though, and this is something I don't know about birth certificates in the US, are they state driven or are they federal?
State. Yep. So it's all based on
Uh,
each state. So actually, when
That's
I was
why.
filling out the paperwork in the hospital for Leon, on the paperwork I was filling out, it specifically said father. And I don't know why, but that particular day it just really upset me.
mhm.
And so as I was filling it out, I crossed that out and put other parent and then continued filling all of my information in. And basically, what they told us at the hospital is like, oh, well, we recognize other parent at this point, not necessarily legally as far as rights, but on the birth certificate, we will put other parent instead of father, but we just haven't updated the paperwork yet. So, like, it's been approved, it's in place, but it takes a really long time to get paperwork updated. So, I could be other parent on the birth certificate, but instead I'm father because they have not updated their paperwork, even though their policies have been updated to kind of accept that. So, there's also that piece of like, well, that's great that you updated the policy,
Mhm.
but let's trickle it down to all of the systems that, you know, are going to affect us. And one of those is the birth certificate. It should
Mhm.
say other parent if that's something that you acknowledge.
Mhm.
So we also have the problem of just kind of moving slow in that regard, where some of our policies have been updated. Some of our policies are great for the queer community, but the paperwork and everything that comes with it does not reflect that. And it's
Mhm.
very kind of demeaning and it makes us feel like an afterthought, right? Like
Mhm. Mhm.
if this were another situation, you would have jumped through hoops of fire to get this paperwork up to date and make sure that it was put in all of your offices and throughout the entire state system. But because we're a queer couple or because, you know, we want to be other parent and not father, you'll get to it when you get to it. No rush, you know. And
Right.
so North Carolina is doing good things, has done good things. It just it just hasn't made it all the way through the systems yet. You know,
Yeah,
you can't really feel that progress when you're still signing something that says father.
fair.
Yep.
Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense to me. Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back. You know about babyREADY because you're listening to this podcast, so you know that we are all about queer family planning and helping you have the family of your dreams. But did you know that we don't abandon you once your baby arrives? We actually offer parenting coaching as well, and that's not just for the newborn phase, although we are there for that, but it's through toddlerhood and young children, tweens, and even through the teen years. When you need someone unbiased to lend an ear so that they can hear where your struggles truly are and help you come up with a path and a plan that feels truly right for you and your individual family, don't hesitate to reach out. We are always happy to be there for you. Visit us at www.babyready.info for more information. Did you know about all these hoops before you started the journey to family creation?
A lot of them we did.
I would say kind of.
Yeah, we definitely knew a lot. I knew about definitely the adoption kind of stuff because I had looked into that and we've had other friends who've done this and stuff like that. So I knew that the adoption part was going to be frustrating and it was going to make
Yep.
us angry and we kind of came up with a timeline for that. But then for the most part, I would say we knew most of everything that was kind of coming. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain things that you just like can't be prepared for, right?
Yeah.
Until it happens to you. You know, like signing this piece of paper that said I was the father, like that
Yeah.
completely blindsided us. We did not see that coming at all. You know, so I think there were just little things kind of along the way that um caught us off guard or maybe rubbed us the wrong way. But for the most part, the big things, the big hurdles, we knew what we were walking into and we were fine with that. I think it was all the little hurdles along the way that we weren't expecting that
Yeah.
kind of made it a little bit more frustrating than it needed to be. But I think we had a good base knowledge, or at least as much as you can know until you're in
Right.
it, right?
Right. And that's part of why I put this podcast together, is so that people do have that kind of information beforehand, have an idea of what to look for. And it is different state to state, country to country, and everything else. And then each variable that we choose, because this is the thing, we're not, as we had sort of alluded to before, these babies don't happen by accident. We put a lot of time, effort, and financial resources to creating our families intentionally. And so, because it doesn't just happen quickly and easily, we need to have the opportunity to make the decisions and know what kinds of decisions we're going to need to make based upon where we live as well. That's why when I first started talking to people, I was really only just talking to people in Canada, and I used my network of people that I knew and that kind of thing. And then I started to realize, hey, it is so different everywhere else. I talked to a couple from France who he and his husband are, have a Canadian egg donor, a Canadian surrogate. Now they're waiting to start that process. It's been 2 years since I first talked to them, and they're just waiting to have an opportunity to do the first transfer. So I'm just so hopeful for them. But the one of them is French, the other's Italian, and then we can't even go into all of the horror that's going to bring to the two
Yeah,
of them emotionally, to just not acknowledge that ancestry that they have. Like, it's
right.
a lot. So that's why I kind of opened everything up, and I wanted everybody to share stories regardless of where they're from, so that people have the opportunity to learn, because there's a lot of decision making, and you want to make sure you've got all the variables as best you can in
Right.
place beforehand. What is the one thing that you wish someone had told you about this journey that you know that you wish that you knew it in advance? Not that it would have changed anything for you, but just that so that you weren't blindsided by it, perhaps. And I mean the whole process from start to finish. Or is there
That's a
anything?
really, yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if there's anything that we've talked about as we kind of went through the journey that it's like why did no one tell me this? Like,
Okay,
why
I have
didn't I
them.
know this ahead of time?
Mhm.
But I'm very blessed with Liz, who is an internet sleuth. And if she wants to know something, she's going to find it out. And I'm lucky to just sit here and absorb.
Fair.
So I don't know that there was anything for me, but I also wasn't the carrier to begin with. So that answer might change as I get deep into this IVF journey and really
Mm.
begin, kind of going through all of that. That answer may change, but as the partner, as the spouse for baby number one, I don't know that I have an answer for that. Liz, you've got one though. What do you got?
Yes, I do.
The nausea and the vomiting.
No, I don't care
Oh.
about that. I wish somebody had told us like, and I'm just going to use the term be patient, but what I really mean by that is like every single little component of every process you do, whether it's IUI or IVF, nothing is going to be, and I don't mean this in like a super negative way, but nothing is going to go how you want it to. Nothing
Mhm.
is on your schedule, which I didn't think about that, but like nothing is on your schedule. You have to
Mhm.
be flexible. You have to be communicative with like people you normally don't want to be necessarily with, like your job, for example. Do I
Mhm.
want to tell my job that we're doing a fertility, blah, blah, blah? No, but to some
Yeah.
degree, I have to be open and communicative
Mhm.
about. So, like, you have to be really flexible and patient because nothing is really going to work out exactly how you want it to.
That's
And
been
that's
hard
just
for me.
how that's fertility. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Um,
That's
That's
true.
been so hard for me. Unfortunately, Liz just gave me a really bad example of how to get pregnant. And,
I know.
yeah,
I just
You
expected
just
that
go to
I'd
the
follow
doctor and it
suit. And
happens.
yeah,
yeah,
I figured they'd come in with some like fairy dust and, Salt Bay me and we'd be good to go and everything's fine. And,
It didn't work
um,
out that way.
it doesn't.
no,
Yeah.
no. And that I will say that has been very, very hard for me because like she said, I had a plan. I
Hmm.
had it down to the time. I want to have a summer baby. I want to be pregnant before these crazy elections. I had a plan. And
Yeah.
here we sit, October 24th, and we're no further than we were in July when we got started. And I am definitely like a type A person in the sense that like once I have a plan in mind or once I've made a plan, I'm
Hmm.
going to start going through the steps to follow that plan and just
Has
hitting
Leon
roadblocks.
not taught you about that? Being a parent
Yeah,
should
fair.
teach you that there's no such thing as plans.
Yeah, I have
He's
to
so
tell her every
feral.
day.
He
Like,
should have taught me
now.
that. He's so feral. I don't. I just wasn't listening. I guess I wasn't paying attention, Sam. I don't know.
It's like,
That
Oh,
that is true.
mhm.
That's been a very, very hard lesson is to kind of be patient and realize that your plan is not always your body's plan, and you
yeah.
have to
Yeah,
be flexible.
we're talking like biology and a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
a lot
different
more complicated.
components.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have to
that's
tell her
true.
probably every day to calm down and to stop being so negative about it because I get it. Like watching your partner get pregnant like instantly was probably, you have this expectation that you're going to have something similar. Granted, you should have to some degree expected yours was going to be a little more difficult. But yeah, like I think everybody has this expectation
Mhm.
that because we're doing fertility treatments and these procedures, oh, yeah, it's going to work out great. And it's like we all have different bodies. We
Mhm.
have everything. It's so complex to get a human pregnant, even though these
Mhm.
people are just popping up pregnant all over the place.
Yeah.
Whole different story. But like your journey is not going to be like everybody else's. So like live your journey, but stop comparing yourself to everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard.
of course.
Admittedly, it's really hard.
Oh,
But it
horrible.
is,
Hard.
we want to see the world through rose-colored glasses. That's what gets us up in the morning. That's what helps us put one foot in front of the other. And so we want the rose-colored glasses, but our body's not always
Yeah,
going
Yeah.
to
that's very
accommodate
true.
that.
Very true.
You
Yeah.
mentioned insurance before, like way when we first started talking. Do
Mhm.
you have insurance? Does insurance cover any of this journey for either one of you?
Some medication, anything diagnostic related, they covered, and actually they covered our genetic testing too, because I think the way our fertility clinic coded it, It's all about how you code things. So they coded it as diagnostic, and they covered like several $1,000s worth of genetic testing. Yeah, so that was really, really cool. But everything else, like medications that are not diagnostic, all of that is out of pocket.
Yeah, that's actually been an interesting journey that we just started this week. Because I got an email on Monday that was like, all right, we're gonna see you on Wednesday, and we need all of your money. And I was like, I'm sorry, it's Monday. My appointment's in 48 hours. You think I'm gonna show up with $20,000 in 48 hours? And the email was essentially like, if you don't have payment in full, we're gonna turn you away. And it's like, I've already put off my fertility. Like, again, I have a schedule and you are messing with my schedule. Um, and so I've literally spent this entire week just kind of scrambling, spending all my time on the phone, calling loan companies, trying to figure out how we can get any sort of coverage to get started. And luckily, our IVF clinic does have some reputable loan companies that they work with often. And they provided us a link to all of those companies that they work with. And I spent a full day doing research on them and who was going to have the best interest rate in this crazy economy and all of those things. And we literally, as of this morning, finally got all of our loan stuff kind of worked out. But I will definitely say that is something that I don't know that we were really prepared for. Um, I mean, when you're talking about 16, 17% interest on a loan that you have to have in order to have a family, we're just taking out a $20,000 loan, and the interest alone is an extra $12,000. So you're talking about a $20,000 loan that at the end of it's going to cost us $32,000. That's an extra childcare payment, right? Like I'm paying for two kids in daycare and I don't even have the second child yet. And so I definitely think that that's something that just this week has kind of blindsided us by. Because I don't know, Liz, you can speak to this, but I don't know that we saw that coming. That like I'm paying for two kids in daycare. I don't have the second kid yet. By the time I have the second kid, I'm really paying for three kids in daycare. That's daycare's expensive. That's something you have to like factor in and think about before you have more kids. So when we financially got to the point where it's like, all right, we can afford two kids in daycare, so we started our journey. Now it's like, oh, just kidding. We have to afford three kids in daycare because our loan is the second kid. So I definitely think that's something that caught us off guard, or at least caught me off guard this week. But yeah, we've had to do essentially a loan for everything to cover the medicines, to cover the treatment. And everything before we were able to get the loan, we were coming out of pocket for. So we were paying for the medicines and the appointments and all of that just kind of up front. So yeah, luckily we were able to get that loan secured very, very recently. But I mean, before that, our journey kind of stopped immediately because they made it very clear without paying for the full IVF before they've even consulted with me on the IVF plan, they weren't going to see me. And that's overwhelming for people to be like, wait a minute, I haven't even taken any medicine yet. Like I haven't started down this journey. Like we're just saying hi to each other for the first time and you expect me to show up with full funds. And that can be overwhelming for sure.
And it is, I mean, you feel like there should be at least some grace period, right? But at the end of the day, it's a business. And I guess everybody deserves to get paid for the work that they do, but I don't think that many people who don't have to go through this process, which unfortunately the entire queer community overwhelmingly needs to go through fertility assistance of some kind if they're having a child that's biologically related to them. And a small percentage, or a percentage, I'm not going to give numbers, but a percentage of the cishet community also has to pay out of pocket. But it should just be a fundamental human right. People want to procreate, they can become parents. If maybe we write a test or something and become parents, But why
We've
does it
actually
have
said
to be
that.
so much, so hard? Exactly. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Right. If I pass the test, can I do this for free?
Yeah,
'Cause,
exactly. Exactly.
right.
I'll study for that test. That's a test I'll study for.
Right? I don't know. It just feels wrong that so much money is made from something that just, if it was universal across the board, every single human who wanted to be a parent had to pay for that process to unfold for themselves, then fine. But when it's just a group of people, or primarily a group of people who has to have, then that's not cool. That's just my personal take on things.
Agreed.
Yeah, no,
Soapbox.
we definitely agree. No, we agree completely.
Are there any words of caution or things that you wanted to come on the show and talk about that you wanted other people to know about yourselves or about your journey or about a journey in general that we haven't covered so far?
I would just, my biggest kind of like tip for people is just in general, do all your research.
Right.
Like get with somebody who's already done this before, and really talk to them and like understand the process, understand all the implications of like the financial side and insurance and all of those, the loans. And like, I wish somebody had had like a checklist that they could just have
Yeah, that would
given
be
us.
great. Maybe we should make one. We should make
We
like an
should.
idea
We
checklist.
should.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, like do your research and really look into it because I feel like there's no way there aren't people who like are in the same position where they want to have a child and blah blah blah, but like maybe they're not financially stable enough for it. So like,
Right.
how do we have these conversations and like prep people before they get, into the office and they find out, all these different things. So yeah,
Mhm.
do your
Fair.
research.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Especially state by state, country to country. Like there's
Yep.
so many
Different
differences.
everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, as we saw from Italy, like a couple days ago, like they're changing stuff left and
On the
right.
fly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what may be relevant today might not actually be relevant tomorrow. So, just keep your ear to the ground. This is why it's important to like listen to these podcasts.
Right.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
whoa, what a concept.
Yeah.
You keep up with this way, and this is how you can kind of stay informed without having to, pay for it and go to
Yeah.
these fertility clinics and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get
No.
engaged, find the free knowledge that you can because it's
Yeah.
certainly out there. I mean, this is a great platform. I wish I had known about it prior, but yeah, definitely educate yourself as much as you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's ultimately why I'm doing it, right? I've been a birth worker for 25 years, but really I have a platform, I have a place, I have people that reach out to me and ask me for information and guidance and support. So why wouldn't I just pull other people's stories together to be able to share them with the masses who want the information?
Right. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Before I let the two of you go back to your afternoon, I do want you to tell me, what is your very favorite part of parenting Leon?
Oh God. That's a hard question to answer.
Oh no, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, you go sit over there and think.
Okay.
Think in silence, woman. So I would say it's watching him grow up. Like every little milestone, every little like new word and like new thing that he does is just the coolest thing in the entire world. And like you don't feel that way until it's your child, because maybe I'm just a horrible person. But like other people's kids, they'd be like, oh my God, my child. And I'm like, I really don't care. Like, that's so awesome. Whoa. But then like you see your kid do it and you're like, he's a genius.
Right.
Like, he's the greatest thing that's ever happened to the world. And like it's just so special and cool to be able to like watch your little person
Yeah.
develop into whoever you hopefully like help them become.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's uniquely yours, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing the similarities, even like with Tabs as
Mhm.
the non-biological mother, there are some major similarities. Have the same taste. Like, I mean, it's just so cool to see, like, he looks just like me, like
Mhm.
face.
Is it
Uh, he looks like me, but he has a lot of personality traits from her. And there's so many different, so it's really cool, whether you're biological or non-biological parent, to see like how you influence this child and like the impact you make.
Yeah. And that's funny you say that because my stepdaughter and I often, she's 18, but we often laugh about, oh, she gets this from me and she gets this from me. I'm not biologically related to her at all. I've known her literally her entire life, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But we laugh that there's things that she gets from me.
Yeah.
So,
See, it's
you
like
know,
nature versus nurture, right?
that's
Like
right.
nature plays its part, but
Yeah.
so does nurture, so does, being there and being around somebody. They say that like you are made up of the five people you spend the most time around, right? Like you
Mhm.
are uh definitely influenced by the people you spend the most time around. And so your kids are the exact same way. If
Yep.
they're in the house with you every day, sure, I didn't carry him. Sure, he's not biologically related to me, but that's my kid. You
Mhm.
can't tell me he's not my kid. If I like the food, I can tell you he's gonna eat it. If
Mhm.
Liz likes it, chances are he's not gonna put it anywhere near him. If we're running and playing and roughhousing, I can guarantee you he's stuck next to me and we're outside doing something stupid. So nature versus nurture is big. And I
Yeah.
think I was really concerned about that when we started having a family. Again, I grew up in foster care, and so I
Mhm.
kind of had this I don't want to say warped, but I kind of had this warped mentality of like what family was, right? Or what
Sure.
family should look like, what family should be. And I was really, really concerned that there was going to be this disconnect or
Mhm.
this barrier between me and him because he wasn't mine and
Mhm.
he didn't have my DNA or I didn't get to carry him. And that has not been the case at all. I mean, sure, he's a mama's boy and he prefers Liz all day long. Everyone is chopped liver to Liz. That just is what it is.
Yep.
But the biology doesn't matter. And I
Mhm.
I really thought it was going to bother me more. I thought it was going to be more of a problem. You can't tell me he's not mine. And I think that's really special as the other person who didn't carry him. Um, you can't tell me I didn't carry him. I might as well have been sick for 10
Mhm.
months next to you in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And so I think as the other partner, it's important to know that while the biology is not there, the love is still there, the nurturing is still there. That bond can be there whether it's genetically written or not.
Right.
And that might be hard for some people because it was very difficult for me. Liz and I had many, many conversations, and I was ignorantly very concerned about biology.
You can't
And
say
it just doesn't
ignorantly
matter.
though,
Yeah.
because you didn't know. And that's the
Right.
biggest thing about all of this, right? We can't know what we don't know, and we can't beat
Right.
ourselves up for not knowing
Right.
what we don't know. I think your feeling is similar to this feeling that virtually all non-bio parents, or the overwhelming majority of non-bio parents, feel in the process as they're learning. But once that child arrives, then it feels like it just goes, what was I thinking? But you
Yeah.
can't know that in advance.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yep.
that's super true. That is super true.
It's
Yeah.
more of a feeling too. Like you
Mm,
just have to be, you got to immerse yourself and then it doesn't even phase you. Like,
mm,
yeah.
fair. All right, Tabitha, what's your favorite?
So that one's hard for me to answer because uh again, as kind of the non-bio parent who has, scanned her belly with a heartbeat monitor and been finding his heartbeat since he had a heartbeat, and kind of the outsider looking in, right, as she went through that journey. It's all been great for me.
Mhm.
Every ultrasound we went to, watching him get bigger at night when she laid in bed and I would find his heartbeat, and, watching him move for the first time in her belly and like a alien foot just
Right.
like clawing across her belly. It's just so hard to answer that. It's all been
Yeah.
so good. And I'm sure every parent will say this, as Liz said, but we got extremely lucky. Lucky with baby number one. Slept through the night, not super colicky, always happy. I mean, you can barely make the child sad. He's such a goofball. He just wants to run and roughhouse and laugh and play. We got so lucky. I mean, we even talked about, do we stop at number one?
Right.
Like,
Because you don't
like
want to
did
tempt fate.
right,
Yeah,
like
very.
we've actually convinced ourselves, this is how we've worked our way around that is, well, they always say it's your second child, but this will be my first child. So like it's the second child in the family,
There
but
you
it's
go.
still my first baby.
There
So
you
like maybe we'll circumvent that
circumvent all
too.
that other stuff.
She's just
But
making loopholes.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's truly as the non-bio parent, I mean, it's all been great. Watching him come out, watching her struggle through labor, cutting his cord, which was actually a lot harder than I was expecting.
It's
I
much
was
more
like,
dense than you
yeah,
think, isn't it?
yeah, I gotta like really like saw through this thing. I
Yeah.
was not prepared for that. But yeah, like
This face.
Cool.
yeah, sorry, you were incapacitated at the moment. You didn't need to worry about that. But yeah, I guess to Liz's point, all of the little phases when he started crawling for the first time and he could actually get around, and when he started running, he rough houses with me all day long. Actually, we're currently discussing how that's going to be an issue because when I start going through IVF, after my transfer, I can't pick up anything for 5 days minimum.
Right.
And it's like, well, he's 30 plus pounds and he thinks I'm a personal jungle gym. So we're gonna see what that looks like when we get there. So I can't pinpoint one thing. And I think maybe other parents would probably say the same thing, right?
Sure.
Like everything's amazing, everything's great, but it really does feel that way with your kid watching all of those milestones, saying words for the first time, like
Right.
just started saying I love you, and I tell you every time he says that I like tear up and start crying. Like it is truly the sweetest thing I've ever heard or seen in
Yes.
my life. So I, I don't think I've
Yelling when he runs around our house and just yells mommy. That's one of the
yeah, he calls us both mommy, and
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it
not on
just
purpose.
yeah, we
We
tried
were
to be
yeah.
and mom, and he decided that was not for him. So
He
he will
said, I'm
just
good. Thank you though.
until he gets the mommy he wants,
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah,
He knows who he's talking to.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think that that's it. And that's actually a conversation my wife and I had ourselves when my stepdaughter was quite young about my wife gave birth to my stepdaughter and the other parent. And my stepdaughter called them both mom and mummy. And my wife was like, well, why doesn't she differentiate between the two? And I said, I don't think she needs to. She knows who she means. And if you
Exactly.
don't get it, that's not on her, that's on you.
Yeah.
He's very
You
much
gotta
like
learn
that.
the tone, right? They say
Yeah.
it with a slightly different tone or a slightly different inflection, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's special. It's really special.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
I really appreciate the two of you taking the time to chat with me this afternoon. I have learned
Yeah.
so much about you and your story and your family, and I just love it. I can't wait for everybody to hear it.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so much.
this was really cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, this was great.
Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.